Good evening and welcome to The Right Side, the show where we talk about today's news, trends, and events from an admittedly conservative perspective. I'm your host, Chris Pareja, and this evening I'm joined by a couple of officers from Alameda County Sheriff's Office, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the Santa Rita Jail Youth Education Program and ways that law enforcement is working in the community to help save lives, change lives, and keep us all safer. And I'm joined this evening by Sergeant Mike Carrol, as well as by Deputy Danielle Mitchell. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the program that you guys are helping to run on a monthly basis and some of the impacts. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So to start with, Mike, this is kind of your baby. Tell us how you got involved in law enforcement and how it transitioned to working on this very important program.
Okay. Like you said, my name is Mike Carrol, Alameda County Sheriff's Office. I'm the supervisor for the Alameda County Street Crimes Unit. We primarily investigate robberies as the Street Crimes Unit supervisor, and I have 4 detectives that work with me. Over the past several years, I've noticed that the suspects that's involved in some of these robberies are getting younger and younger in age. At that point, I decided let's try to educate some of the youth in regards to the crimes that they're committing. And so we decided to create a program to help them. And this program is called the Santa Rita Jail Youth Education Program.
And so now this is a little bit different from things like Scared Straight or other programs that might currently exist. Tell us a little bit about how it's different than that.
The Santa Rita Jail Youth Education Program is different in a sense that it's once a month, and we allow the inmates, the kids to come into the jail to do a 2-hour tour. During the tour, they get to see the intake portion. After the intake portion, we take them to the booking portion, and then they also get to see the housing units and see the various housing units at Santa Rita and the living conditions of those inmates that's housed in Santa Rita Jail. Once we conclude the tour, we'll have a refreshment period, and then we have an hour and a half of open dialogue with 2 panels of inmates. It's a 5 female inmate panel, as well as a 5 male inmate panel, and they talk to the kids. And it's not the in-your-face yelling, screaming. It's more or less telling them about their experiences that led them to incarceration.
Okay, great. And so how long has the program been in existence?
It's been going on for 1.5 years so far.
Okay, and you started the program?
Yes.
How many folks were with you when you started it?
Initially, we had 3 law enforcement officers, and now we're approximately 8.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's where Danielle comes in, because you've recently started working on the program as well. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the program.
I got involved because I worked patrol for approximately 5 years, and I noticed, going different homes, that a lot of parents were having problems with their kids. They're kind of getting in trouble or stealing, and then also too, like Mike has also experienced, we noticed that some of the more violent crimes are, being committed by younger kids. So I wanted personally to be involved, because if there's some type of intervention that we could do for the kids in the community and to help with the parents, then I like to do that. So.
Okay. And so I recently had the opportunity to go through the program. And I joked on Facebook that I spent the morning in Santa Rita Jail, which automatically raised the attention level that there's Chris in jail, what happened,
yes.
Right? So, but what I enjoyed about it is the idea that you brought the kids in, you had them explain why they were there, and you were basically introducing them to their future if they didn't make different choices going forward. And although the officers were firm, it wasn't the yelling and screaming, and I joked with some of the officers that you could tell they're the teddy bears anyway. It's like, I know you guys are being serious, but you were almost smiling as you were telling those kids to sit down and put their hands above the table, etc. And so it was obvious that when I came through that it was an environment that, even though it was a prison environment or a jail environment, that you guys cared.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I learned more,
yes.
which excited me more. Tell me a little bit about how many billions of dollars are invested in this program on an annual basis?
Well, right now we're working on volunteer basis.
So you guys, greedy law enforcement officers, working the overtime for free.
Yeah. I have 8 deputies that's dedicated, loyal to the program. They show up every
Right.
program, and they volunteer 5 hours. Throughout the month, we have maybe 2 or 3 meetings, and they volunteer that time also. So right now, we're working with volunteer hours only. So.
Right. And so there are refreshments, and I know the red vines were extremely popular at the session that I went to, because they ran out of water. Do you guys take that out of your own pocket, or do people donate those resources?
We have a couple of donations that help provide for the refreshments
Right.
that we provide. So yes.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, I learned that, and I was excited that this is a community-driven program. You guys are just doing it because it's the right thing to do. You've seen in your own day job, when you're on the clock, there's a problem in the community, but you didn't just ignore the problem. You said, how can we go about solving this? And this was kind of what came to fruition. So let's talk people a little bit through the tour and how it works. But first, let's talk about how the kids end up in the program, because that was one of my questions. Are these wards of the court or whatever I saw in the brochure that you're not allowed to be there if you're already on probation? Mm-hmm. How do the kids get into the program?
Right now, we're working with the Alameda County Youth Court. They provide vast majority of the kids. We also work with a lot of the community youth programs, and they provide kids also. The Deputy Sheriff's Athletic League provide kids, send kids to our program. And now we're also incorporating some of the unified school districts, San Leandro, Hayward, Castro Valley, as well as San Lorenzo.
And I was noticing trends as well, as a number of kids from certain schools would be there, and that's partially because they're there from the youth program?
Yes.
Or are you seeing more activity at specific schools? Or both?
A little bit of both, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, because what was surprising to me also is it wasn't the schools, the bad schools, or the things that we hear about. Like, I didn't hear any kids really from Hayward. I was hearing Dublin and Castro Valley and places where I was thinking, those kids have problems? I mean...
Yeah. What it is, a lot of kids are doing adult-like crime.
Right.
And so some of those kids that were part of the youth court were referred to our program, right, because instead of going to juvenile hall and getting involved with the probation department, they'll send them to our program in lieu of serving time at juvenile hall or going through the probation department.
And a lot of them, I don't think, understand the severity of the crimes that they're committing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Because I learned, for example, the difference between theft and burglary. In the program, and the idea that, I mean, talk to me a little bit about some of the crimes that you see pop up regularly.
Theft of cell phones is really big, where, you know, the iPhones and the different smartphones going around, you know, kids will beat up another kid and steal it and whatnot, you know, and take off and run. And they have groups form where they have names, and they're not gangs, you know, but they have their little street names, and that's what they do. They go around the streets and they'll take your jewelry, they'll take your cell phones, they'll take your money, you know, and run off. And, you know, sometimes they're armed with firearms to commit these crimes. So.
And so but if they're going full out with firearms and everything else, do they still end up in your program, or does it depend where they get caught in the process?
Well, if they've already been caught, normally they would be on probation. But it's the smaller crimes that lead up to it. So we're trying to get to the children before it gets to that point.
So, like, for example, they just think it's taking a cell phone, and they don't realize that because cell phones are of value, over $500, all of a sudden now that's a felony, as opposed to I was just trying to get a cell phone.
Right. Yes. A lot of kids don't understand the concept or the elements of a robbery. Robbery is force or fear. So when I take your cell phone from you, at some point I instilled fear in you, and that constitutes a robbery, which boosts it up to a felony.
Okay. Okay. And so they may be convicted by a jury of their peers, or they may end up through these various channels, and then you take them through the facility. But first you also have an accountability component that I noticed. And you have them all come up in front of the room and admit what they've done.
Yes. Yes.
How do they normally respond to that? I saw some kind of still were thinking it was a joke at that point. Some were extremely embarrassed.
Yes. We do that for 2 reasons. One is because we want the kids to see that there are kids out there committing serious crimes that can lead them to incarceration. Right. We also want them to see at the end that some of the crimes they committed, the inmates that they speak to, have committed some of those same crimes, so that hopefully it's a reality check for them.
Okay. And so they go through that process, they talk about what they've done, why they're there, and then you take them on the tour of the facility, both the men's and the women's facilities.
Yes.
When they're doing that, I mean, what is the normal reaction you see just from the children and their interaction with the inmates? At what point does it become real for them?
It becomes real the minute we take them through the booking process, because at that point they get to see what it's like being booked into Santa Rita jail. They get to see the clothing that the inmates actually wear. They get to see some of the food that the inmates actually eat. After we expose them to the clothing and the food, we'll take them out to the housing unit, and then that's when it's a real reality check, because they see the small quarters in this, the cells. They'll see the large number of inmates, and I think that's more or less the reality check that they get in. They actually have a eye-opening experience.
And they get the sights, the sounds, and the smells of the facility all at the same time.
Yes.
I mean, where do you see the largest impact, Danielle?
I observed a reaction when the children were speaking with the inmates themselves, because they get to see that, you know, not only a person from a broken home commits crimes. It's all walks of life.
Right.
You know, and also, like, you know, Sergeant Carrol was saying, some of the things that they're doing are the same things that led the inmates to become incarcerated and live a life going in and out of the jail system. But some of the stories I've noticed that the kids will sometimes start crying, you know, because they feel what that inmate is feeling, because they'll explain to them, you know, this is not a glamorous or a fun experience. You know, I have children, you know, I have a life, and these are things that I'm missing out on. And so they kind of, you know, realize that, you know, this could be their reality. And so you see them a little bit more moved or emotional, to where they're not laughing. It's not a joke anymore to them.
Right. Well, especially when you've got inmates that they're talking to that are in for murder or assaults or armed robbery, and these are folks that used to be sports stars, used to be honor students, might have come from a two-parent home, and just went through a really stupid spell, or started doing little things here and there and just went down the road way too far, and there they are.
Yes.
So talk to me about some of the issues you've run into in implementing this program. Did you get a lot of input from other systems or other law enforcement personnel in other parts of the state or country? How did you lay the infrastructure for this?
Well, this program has never been done in this fashion. You do have the Scared Straight program, as you mentioned earlier, but for educational purposes, this has never been done. So a lot of it was more or less trial and error. We had to create policies. We had to go to the Juvenile Justice Protection Act to get information on when we can allow kids in and when we cannot allow kids in. That's when we found out that you can't allow kids in that are actively on probation. So it's a lot of hurdles we had to climb in order to get the program going.
Okay, and so so there was no one else to really model this after?
No, it's not.
Okay, and so if another law enforcement agency or just an active community member said, hey, wait a minute, this sounds good, this is something that we could use to square our own kids away, or maybe they were watching and saying, they need this at my school where my children go, are you willing to provide guidance and help this kind of a thing grow virally in other areas?
Yes. Yes, we're willing to do that.
Okay, great. So what have been some of the benefits you've seen of the program? I want to ask that from two different directions, because in talking to you, I found out there were more than just one group that were positively impacted. Let's talk about the kids first.
Okay.
What have you guys seen? Have you talked to some of the kids later? And do they bring back siblings, or what happens?
Yes. Well, we have a evaluation program where we go back and contact the kids, several of the kids afterwards. So we have a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day contact portion.
So it's not just take the tour and have a nice life, hopefully we don't see you again.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. The parents have really supported the program, and a lot of the parents have referred us to other kids. So it's been successful so far.
Okay. And any success stories that you've seen, Danielle? Or?
I'm still new to the
Okay.
program, so not yet.
Yeah. Okay. So now, but there's another group besides the community members who are happy that the kids aren't burglarizing and beating them up, begging their houses, spray painting their cars for them. Who else is benefiting from this program?
In actuality, you wouldn't believe it, but the inmates actually get gratification out of taking part in this program. It's more or less like a restorative justice for them. They feel like they're giving back, they're teaching, they're helping. 'Cause a lot of times the inmates actually see the kids and they actually see their kids. And several of them have mentioned that I should be talking to my own kid as opposed to talking to someone else's kid and trying to prevent them from being incarcerated.
Plus, it's also harder to be incongruent and tell the kids you shouldn't be acting this way, and then go back and do the things that you do if you are able to kind of rationalize in your mind that it just doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, any stats yet? I mean, it's only a 1.5 year old program, but any stats yet on recidivism or people who just can't break the crime habits and that you end up actually meeting on the other side, or is it too early to?
It's still too early for that.
Okay. And what about for the inmates who do the talking? Some of them I know do get out. Some of them are going to be there a while.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Several of them mentioned that upon their release, they want to take part in other community programs to discourage kids from taking part in criminal activity and hopefully to discourage them from being involved in Santa Rita or being arrested coming into Santa Rita.
And so are there other programs that the inmates do participate in, like at the school levels or others, that you know of? Or is that kind of an open space where if somebody wanted to coordinate that kind of thing, they might be able to reach out for resources for that kind of program?
I have not heard of any yet.
Okay.
Have you?
No, I have not.
Okay. So as all of this is moving forward, what do you see as the next steps for the program? And are you looking at doing some kind of expansion, or what do you see as the going forward strategy?
Right now, we're looking to incorporate the school districts.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to get the school districts in our jurisdiction actually more involved. Some of the local high schools and junior high schools to get their kids more involved, utilize their resources, and take part in the program.
And that's one of the things that I was talking to, I don't know if I was talking to you, Danielle, or it might have been Jessica or Terrence. I mean, there were so many people involved and they were all so helpful. But that was one of the first things that came to my mind, especially seeing the numbers coming from certain schools. Mm-hmm. It's like, is there a way to take this program to them, or is there a way to incorporate it into the curriculum in a way that some of the ones that might not have shown up on your radar yet, but might have?
Yes.
Or might in the future?
In the future.
Yeah.
Is there a way to prevent that by, I'm not saying field trips to the jail, but involving them in the program? Is that something that you would be agreeable to? Is that something that could work?
Yes, it's possible, and we're actually exploring those ideas as we speak.
Okay. And is that something that would still be able to be done on a volunteer basis, or is that when you start having to look for state or county funding to make those kinds of things happen?
We can do it on a volunteer basis, but it'd be very demanding, so we probably have to look for some kind of funding, outside funding.
My biggest concern was that if it actually did come to being funded by the government, that somehow it'd get screwed up. Because then it's not a heart thing anymore, and then they've got extra rules, and with money comes strings, and then politicians come and say, well, we need to do this, and I need my photo up, and next thing you know, it turns to crap.
Yes.
So we don't want that to happen. Have there been any other jurisdictions that have reached out to you guys, and or even within Alameda County? I mean, there's at least one other jail in Alameda County, right?
Yes.
Oakland, or is there?
It's North County or Glendyre.
Glendyre jail.
Okay.
But that's also
that's
ours.
our jail as well.
Okay.
So.
But are there plans for expanding even within the county?
Yes. We do have other agencies taking part in the program. We had the Oakland Police Office, Police Department take part in the program. We've had Berkeley and Oakland Housing Authority take part in the program.
Okay.
During the month of March, we had Sacramento Unified School District provide 30 kids, as well as Solano County School Districts provided kids.
So how did that work? They just found out that there's something going on in Alameda County and they were willing to bust the kids down? Talk to me about that.
We were referred to Sacramento County by one of the parents that took part in the program. They referred a teacher that teach at one of the local high schools in Sacramento, and she brought a group of kids to the program.
Just her class versus at-risk youth, or was it a combination of?
A combination of kids.
Okay. That was my next question, is let's say some parent is over there saying, wow, this is something that we need to get rolling. Is that where your leads come from for that kind of thing? And then they just book a time, let you know that they're bringing up a group, and off you go.
Yes.
Well, the program is open to all youth. So if, for example, there's someone you know that's having a problem with their teen, and no matter what they say, it's not working, because a lot of times kids don't want to listen to their parents.
Right.
So if they want someone else to just talk to them and show them, okay, well, this is where you can end up. And then also with the program, they get to go inside the jail and see that it's not like TV, it's reality set in. It might be helpful to hear it from someone else. And so we're open to have those children also.
And that's the way it worked even in the tour that I took.
Yeah.
You had the front row seats for the special guests, and then you had everyone else that was outside the spit zone who didn't have to introduce themselves to the group, because they were just there as a sibling or just as someone who was interested in seeing how the program worked.
Yeah.
When do the programs normally take place?
It's the third Saturday of each month.
Okay, and is there a specific time that they normally?
It's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay. And so when somebody's thinking about doing it, they should probably reach out ahead of time, let you know.
Yes.
There's some background information that they have to provide, et cetera.
Yes.
Right. So I know that normal people are supposed to do it that way and follow the rules, right? So, and so what other kinds of things, we've got about a couple minutes left, what other kinds of things should people know about the program, or about some of the benefits from it, or just generally?
I think the program is it's a very successful program. Parents have given us a lot of positive feedback. The kids have given us a lot of positive feedback through the evaluations that they've submitted. Just want to keep the program going. I think it's a very valuable tool for the kids in the community, so that they can see by making ill-advised choices, there's repercussions. And this is, Santa Rita Jail is one of the repercussions for the choices that you make.
And just at a high level, because we are limited on time, talk to me about the ramifications of the prison system, the official prison system having to reduce their numbers, and how that impacts the inmates and the learning curve within your own facility.
Yes. Yeah. With AB 109, a new law that came out in regards to prison reform, it has really impacted the prison with a lot more sophisticated inmates. And so some inmates that are housed at Santa Rita County Jail should actually be held in a state facility, but in actuality they're in the county jail. So coming into Santa Rita Jail, you're coming into a very sophisticated
Criminal
environment.
All right. Well, so we're about out of time for this segment. Tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want to learn more about the program or support you in some way.
Okay. You can contact me at Michael Carrol, email mcarroll@acgov.org.
Okay, great. And we're going to post that up on the screen so people can see that. I appreciate both of you coming tonight and sharing a little bit about your passion and the things you're doing to keep the community straight. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And at this point, we'd like to share a little bit of information about our underwriter, the Conservative Forum.
The Conservative Forum of Silicon Valley began with 20 conservatives meeting at a restaurant in November of 2003. Our mission is to promote the principles of American liberty through education. By 2012, we had grown to over 600 paid members. Our monthly meetings feature well-known and prestigious conservative speakers addressing issues that are critical to our country's very survival. This includes speakers like Victor Davis Hanson, Andrew Breitbart, David Horowitz, and many others. In addition to our monthly meetings, we sponsor a conservative local cable access TV show, The Right Side, covering today's topics. Our Constitution discussion group not only teaches the Constitution, but started our annual essay contest that awards 2 $1,000 scholarships to local high school seniors. We are a virtual clearinghouse for grassroots organizations by providing them with table space at no charge in our exhibit area. There are typically a dozen groups represented. If you are like-minded, join us at our next meeting and become motivated and empowered. Liberty, made in America.
And welcome back to The Right Side. Again, I'm your host, Chris Pareja, and that was a word from the Conservative Forum. In addition to sponsoring this show, what they're best known for is their speaker series. For example, this evening, the guest at the Conservative Forum is Debbie Bacigalupi, and she'll be talking about her recent trip to Brazil for the Earth Summit. In August, we will be hearing from Steve Forbes and Elizabeth Ames, co-authors of the Freedom Manifesto. On September 3rd, Elizabeth Nixon, the author of Ecofascism. And October 1st, Robert Spencer, director of jihadwatch.com, will be speaking. And in December, there will be things lined up for our end of the year celebration. You can find out more about the Conservative Forum at theconservativeforum.com, and you can attend the events about 3 minutes from here at 432 Steerlin Road in Mountain View. And in closing, I wanted to just reiterate that the things that Mike and Danielle talked about this evening, they're very humble about what they're doing, but they're truly heroes, and they're making an impact on young people's lives, on the communities they serve, and they identified a problem and went about solving it on their own, not worried about the money, not worried about how it would take place other than it being professional and really making a difference. Having been through their program, not as an inmate, but on the other side of the bars, I really appreciated what they've done, what they've put together, the professionalism with which they run it, and the obvious caring and compassion that they have toward the children, that they are stopping or preventing from continuing a stupid streak, as I called it previously. I know, looking at my own youth, there were a couple of there was a police officer that I met along the way and supportive family members that weren't involved in a program like this, but I think we all have the potential to fall down a road if we're not careful, and their program really can make a difference. So I encourage you to reach out to learn more and to help out if you can. Again, this has been The Right Side. I've been your host, Chris Pareja, and we're looking forward to seeing you again in person or on the show sometime soon. Thanks a lot. Have a great night.